Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Ramo Rajamani Sada Vijayate Ramam Ramesham Bhaje Ramena Bihata Nishacharachamu Ramaya Tasmai Namaha. Ramannasti Parayanam Parataram Ramasya Dasosmyaham Rame Chittalaya Sada Bhavatu Me Bho Rama Mamuddhara. Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidwaram Sadgurum Brahma Vidwaram. Akhandam Satchidanandam Avang Manasagocharam Atmanam Akhiladharam Ashraye Bhishta Siddhaye Arthatopyadvayanandan Ati Tadvaita Bhanatah Guruna Radhya Vedanta Saram Vakshe Yathamati. Hari Om. We were seeing the portion of Aham Brahmasmi Mahavakya Vichara. In other words, what happens at the time of realization? What happens at the time of realization? According to Vedanta, Ajnana Nivrutti happens at the time of realization. There is no unique experience as such. Vritti Vyapti takes place clearly, and Phala Vyapti is not needed. And that Vritti is Brahmakara Vritti, for which so much of elaboration was done. Having understood that Vritti clearly, knowing very well that I am not this finite being. Whatever conditionings are there, they are not in this Chaitanya. That clarity of knowledge alone is moksha. In Kenopanishad we had seen Chakshushas Chakshuhu Atimuchya Dhiraha Shrotrasya Shrotram Manaso Manoyata Vachoha Vacham Sau Pranasya Pranaha Chakshushas Chakshuhu. The one who can rise above, one who can dissociate from all these conditionings. Examples are just given of sense organs, but it includes mind also. One who can dissociate from all of it. Pretya asmat lokat amrutaha bhavanti. Atimuchya dhiraha means letting go of them. Disidentification with conditionings. Not identifying with conditionings. One who can do that, that person only is liberated. Pretya asmat lokat amrutaha bhavanti. So what is that process like? A more systematic unfoldment is given in this part. In that adhikari, this Brahmakara Vritti rises, and when it rises, it removes all erroneous notions about Aham. I am this body, I am this mind. All those erroneous notions are removed. But this vritti is such that it itself gets dissolved. So one need not struggle even to hold on to this Brahmakara vritti. If again we go back to our erroneous notions, again it can be brought. But there is no insistence that it should stay with me forever. On the other hand, if you make that as the criteria, it will be another struggle. that person cannot do anything else, he will feel Brahmakara vritti is getting replaced by some other vritti. Or Brahmakara vritti has come, it will go away. Just like any other vritti which comes and goes, Brahmakara vritti will also come and go. So there is no insistence on holding on to Brahmakara vritti once it has turned attention to Nitya Chaitanya, that eternal truth which is witness of thought. That Chaitanya does not come and go. Chaitanya is Nitya, it is eternal. That was one important topic we had seen in the last session. Then Swamiji said, why are we discussing this whole part of Vritti Vyapti, Phala Vyapti? He said, because there are Upanishad mantras. Some of them say, with mind alone we should know this truth. Or, with mind alone we can know this truth. And then there are Upanishad mantras which say, with mind one cannot know this truth. Let's chant that verse, 174. Lead and repeat. Evam cha sati, manasa eva anudrashtavyam, manasa eva anudrashtavyam, yan manasa na manute, iti anayoho, shrutyoho, avirodha, vritti, vyapyatva, angikarena, phala, vyapyatva, pratishedha, pratipadanat, evam cha sati, manasa eva anudrashtavyam. By mind alone, this truth should be known. And then yan manasa na manute. Some Upanishad mantras say, by mind, this truth cannot be known. How do you reconcile both of them? So for this, Swamiji said, when it is said in this way, what they really mean is, iti anayoho shrutyoho avirodaha. There is no contradiction between these two Upanishad mantras. The first one says, vritti vyapyatva angikarena. Angikarena means to accept. So when it is said with mind, it should be known. What we really mean there is, Brahmakara vritti will take place in the mind. Vritti vyapti is needed and it will take place only in the mind. So whenever it is said, one should focus on purifying the mind. The final goal of purification of mind is to allow Brahmakara vritti to take place. Take place in such a way that it has the power to negate all other vrittis. Otherwise, Brahmakara vritti is like that soul warrior. There are so many other people who are there, other thoughts which are there, which are more powerful. And Brahmakara vritti has a small needle trying to fight. All others have come, decked with their weapons and everything. Time and again it gets beaten up. So a sadhaka is somebody in whom this Brahmakara vritti is very strong. Very strong meaning the conviction because of his shraddha in Shastra Pramana. Because of other sadhanas by which mind is relatively quiet. He doesn't have to deal with other vrittis anymore. With all of that, he says this vritti vyapti will take place. So when it is said with mind, we have to know the truth. This is what it is meant over here. Means one cannot circumvent this particular step of purifying the mind because that vritti itself will not rise. Thought itself will not come. Even if it comes, it won't be strong enough. Other side was, if you say, you don't need the mind. This truth is beyond the mind. If somebody says that, what is the fear there? Some mysticism. We don't know what happens in realization. Some unique experience is there. That also is avoided by saying manasa eva anudrashtavyam. There is no unique experience involved over here. It is only clarity of knowledge. Unique experience is actually of a calm mind. That is what we seek many a times. That experience, whenever it has happened, it has given a lot of joy. Whenever kartrutva, bhoktrutva is less, doership is less, enjoyership is less, that instance was when we experienced a lot of joy. But in Vedantic realization, even that is not sought. What is really sought is clear knowledge that I am not karta, I am not bhokta. Mithyatva, falsification of doer and enjoyer. Instead of saying enjoyer, we can say experiencer. That is more broader word, experiencer. And the other side is, if somebody holds on to the mind so much and tries to understand Brahman through the mind, either as an object, they will not make it an object, but somehow or the other, it will end up becoming an object. Means objectification will very subtly creep into their thinking. If this mind is taken as real, and through the mind, the truth is tried to be understood. So unknowingly, that statement will be, I know Brahman. I know Brahman. That's why it is said, yan manasa na manute. So whenever yan manasa na manute, like this Upanishad mantras we find, what are they really saying there? Phalavyapyatva pratisheda pratipadanat. The last line of that verse. Vritti vyapti is needed, but phalavyapti is not needed. Another name for phalavyapti is ahankara. The one who is claiming, I know. The claimer is ahankara. Consciousness reflected in antakarana appears in two parts. One part goes with vritti. Otherwise, vritti itself is inert. Even for vritti to do vyapti, it needs something. Sentiency is needed. And another part is ahankara. And ahankara's role is to keep claiming anything anybody does in this sanghata. So if hands do something, actually speaking, it is karmendriya. Right? Hand is a karmendriya which is doing something. Vritti takes place that hand has done. Ahankara claims that vritti. He says, I have done. And wherever it has I notion, all those things it will claim as aham. In this sharira, it has I notion. So whatever the sharira does, ahankara claims it as I did it. But when it comes to Brahmajnanam, when Brahmakara vritti takes place, it is said ahankara need not claim I know Brahman. Because the purpose is to abide in Chaitanya, whose reflection is this ahankara. Not to be in ahankara and then try to look at Chaitanya. Okay. Example we had also seen, moonlight and sunlight. Moonlight is like that ahankara, reflected light, illumining everything else. But to see sunlight, we don't need that moonlight. It gets overpowered when the sun rises. Now, in Sadhana Panchakam, there are 5 verses. Each verse has 8 instructions, 8 sadhanas. Although it said Sadhana Panchakam, it is 40 sadhanas which are given. And Mahavakya Upadesha comes by the end of 2nd verse. By the end of 2nd verse, Mahavakya Upadesha is done. So 3 out of 5 verses are sadhanas which are to be done after Mahavakya Shravanam. See how much of importance Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji gives to our lifestyle, because sadhana is always in vyavahara. Sadhana is not in Brahma. He says, after you have heard Mahavakya, what are the things we should be alert about? So almost 60% of sadhanas in Sadhana Panchakam are to be done after Mahavakya. So if you have studied Sadhana Panchakam, again we can visit that. Just read through it and see what are the sadhanas Bhagavan is telling me that I should be doing. And one cannot say, I have not heard Mahavakya. If you have studied Upanishads, or if you have come to this point in Vedanta Saar, and still if we say, which is Mahavakya? What is Mahavakya? You say, how could you miss it? There were so many detailed discussions which were done. So one cannot say that also. At the same time, it is possible one feels that Mahavakya is not worked yet. So what are the sadhanas we can do such that Mahavakya works for us? Few of them I have picked, only 3 out of whatever Bhagavan has said after that. One, Bhagavan says, ahar ahar garvav parityajyatam. Time and again, when you see this ahankara rising, time and again, when we see this doership rising, consciously putting forth effort to bring it down. Parityajyatam is vidhiling. It's an injunction. Ahar ahar garvaha parityajyatam. Trying to be ahankara means trying to be the best dreamer. Our whole effort is to wake up. Trying to sit in ahankara and be the best doer means he's trying to become the best dreamer. So this person says, I am okay if I am the worst waker, but still I don't want to be the best dreamer. I will start putting effort and try to own up this Chaitanya as my identity. That is one sadhana. Ahar ahar garvav parityajyatam. Time and again being very watchful of whether this ahankara is rising as doer, enjoyer. He said, no bhoga from outside can give contentment. Ananda is my swarupa. Through that reminder, bring this ahankara down. Or whatever technique one can use, he says that is this sadhana. Subtle sadhana, right? Not kriya pradhana. It is not doing some action. It is just reducing this ahankara. Then he says, audasinyam abhipsyatam. Udasinata is formed with 2 words. Ut asina. Ut means above, asina means seated. Throughout the day, there are different circumstances, different situations which will keep coming. He says, if we have to abide in Mahavakya, we should learn the art of rising above that situation. Ut asina means risen above. Whatever has come, not getting so overpowered by it that we lose our holding over Mahavakya. We lose our hold over Mahavakya, or whatever jnanam we have, whatever sadhanas this person has done. It says audasinyam. And interestingly, sometimes we feel these are all results of spiritual journey. But here Bhagavan puts all of them under sadhanas. Udasinata. Udasina doesn't mean disinterested. I don't know how it will become sadhana if you interpret in that way. Ut asina means risen above. One who is having this ability to not get swept away by situations. In that person, Mahavakya will work better. And last one he says, or the one that I picked out of those, is ekante sukhamasyatam. Ekante means in solitude, being very content. Sitting or seeking solitude at least for some part in the day. And those are moments. If you miss that time slot, to find it during the day is very hard. Once the sun rises, Vyavahara starts. To find that solitude is very hard. But if one can do that, keep our mind in this knowledge, this is one can internalize Mahavakya better. And other sadhanas are also there. Can take a look and reflect on it more. Now everything else is quotations and remaining ideas. Let us see. 175. Taduktam phalavvyapyatvamevasya phalavvyapyatvam evasya shastrakrudbhirnivaritam shastrakrudbhirnivaritam brahmanyajnananachaya brahmanyajnananashaya vrittivyaptirapekshita vrittivyaptirapekshita. All sandhis will get tested here. Brahmani ajnana nashaya vritti vyaptihi apekshita. Buddhir balam sandhi happened there. Vyaptir apekshita. Visarga became ra. These two lines are from Panchadashi, not from 6th chapter, but from 7th chapter. The book says 690, but it is 790. So the first line is 790, and the second line is 792. Two verses Swamiji has picked from Panchadashi. So it is said, whenever Upanishads say mind is not needed, what they are doing there is phalavyapyatvam evasya shastrakrudbhir nivaritam. They are refuting or negating phalavyapti. Only phalavyapti. Brahmani ajnana nashaya vritti vyapti apekshita. In Brahma, to remove ajnanam, to remove ignorance in Brahman, we do need this vritti. We do need this brahmakara vritti. That's why mind is needed. Okay. Swayam prakashamanatvat nabhasa upayujyate Swayam prakashamanatvat abhasaha na upayujyate. Because this Chaitanya is Swayam Prakasha, it is self-shining, self-illuminating. The only thing in this creation which has ability to know. Whenever the word light is used, it is not some other light. Light means the ability to know. The thing which really has this ability is Chaitanya. In fact, that is the definition of Chaitanya. That which knows itself and can know others. Swayam vibhati atha anyan api vibhati. Oh, I thought eyes also have the power to know. Mind also has the power to know. It says that knowing is borrowed from Chaitanya. In fact, if we can trace back any perception, we will reach Bhagavan. We will reach Chaitanya, we will reach that Sakshi, any perception we trace. That is the Drugdrishya Viveka. From Drishya come to eyes, from eyes go to mind, from mind go to Sakshi. And that Sakshi is Swayam Prakasha, it doesn't need anything else to illumine. All we have to do is quieten other things. Quieten thoughts, quieten sense organs, quieten all other perceptions. Through Brahmakara Vritti, shift attention to that Shuddha Chaitanya. That is said in this verse. All this we have seen before. They are just coming in verses now. In the summary part, we had seen this. Now, how does perception of Jada Prapancha take place? Means our day-to-day perceptions. Inert world, how is it perceived? So what are the things needed there? Vritti Vyapti is needed and Phala Vyapti is also needed. Inert world doesn't have light of its own. Ahankara has to go and illumine that world outside. But Ahankara will illumine only when Vritti has taken form of that object. Vritti Vyapti has taken place, Phala Vyapti will follow it. But there is no time gap. That okay, now Vritti is going, it has enveloped. Now Ahankara goes and then illumines. Both of it happen so simultaneously that we don't even know what is happening. So they have analyzed this for us, and all other darshanikas, like in Sankhya Darshana, they have done even more analysis of this. We had seen this in Praman Vichara, if you remember. Pratyaksha Pramana, how does cognition take place? They said there is a field which has channels. How water will go through that channels and envelop a particular area of field. Like that, through different sense organs, consciousness goes out as thought, envelopes objects, and then brings the information outside. So Vritti Vyapti is there and Phala Vyapti is also there. There is no knowledge which takes place which Ahankara does not claim. Think about it. Vritti Vyapti happened, Phala Vyapti did not happen. There is no knowledge, it will always happen together. It is possible that is erroneous knowledge. For example, if I see a snake on a rope, Vritti Vyapti has taken place, but Phala Vyapti will be of erroneous Vritti. That is possible. That is called as Brahma. But all knowledge that takes place has to have Ahankara which is claiming, I know it. Jada Padartha, 177. Jada Padartha Akara Karita Chitta Vruttehe Visheshaha Asti. Jada Padartha Akara Karita. Of that thought which is taking the form of a Jada Padartha, Chitta Vruttehe, of that thought, Visheshaha Asti. There is some uniqueness. Means it is different from how Brahmakara Vritti works. Only that much. How is it different? Tathahi Ayam Ghataha Iti Ghatakara Karita Chitta Vrittihi Ajñātam Ghatam Vishayīkrutya Tadgata Ajñāna Nirasana Purassaram Swagata Chidabhasena Jadam Ghatam Api Bhasayati. Tathahi, therefore over here, Ayam Ghataha, this is a pot. Ayam Ghataha iti Ghatakara Karita Chitta Vrittihi Ajñātam Ghatam Vishayikritya. This thought about Jada Padartha, inert object, having taken the form of that object, it removes ignorance of that object. Clearer the vritti, clearer the knowledge. Vritti Vyapti, in day-to-day parlance, if you want to say, the ability to grasp things quickly. Children, they do speed reading. They're given some time and they have to quickly, read through those pages. What they're really training is quick comprehension and focus. They're really not interested in the content of reading. Somebody told me this. Speed reading means how quickly you are able to focus. And Vedanta will say, create that vritti. Create that vritti about that topic. If it takes place clearly, then ajnanam about that thing goes away. We also know, right? Sometimes you are reading a page and if mind is distracted, it's only one paragraph or two paragraphs, you read it 10 times and still you feel you're not getting it. But if mind is calm, vritti can take place clearly, then it can be grasped also. And don't think it's only with eyes. Vritti Vyapti can take place with ears also. Right? Pratyaksha Pramana is not only eyes. For example, somebody plays a song and they say, which raga is this? Which raga is this? And then you are thinking, which raga is this? It has this swara. This swara is not there. So like this, when you start thinking, what we are doing is trying to create a vritti. Vritti of whatever knowledge we have gained and vritti of that song. It can also be to rasanendriya, taste. Sometimes they ask, they'll make a soup and say, which soup is this? And you are tasting it and you have to create vritti, whatever previous thing you have experienced and whatever is there right now. So vritti vyapti takes place through all sense organs. So that is this clarity about that Vishaya, how clear this vritti has taken place about that Vishaya. Okay. Ghatam Vishayikritya Tadgata Ajnana Nirasana Purassaram. Whatever ignorance was there about that object, that is removed first. Purassaram means in the beginning. So first Ajnanam has to be removed, and then Swagata Chidabhasena Jadam Ghatam Api Bhasayati. So that vritti is accompanied by Phalavyapti, that reflected consciousness, Chidabhasa, which is there, that illumines this object. Then the statement comes, Aham Ghatam Janami. Vritti Vyapti's part was, Ayam Ghataha. This is a part. Phalavyapti's part was, Aham Ghatam Janami. I know the part. And as I said, both happen simultaneously. It is not that one happens first, second happens after some time. Even our perception, everything is happening simultaneously. I cannot say, I see this pillar, but I don't know this pillar. The moment I see, naturally this ahankara says, I know this pillar. Nuances of it, details of it, I need more vrittis. Which material is this? Who has carved it? All those things, they are after that. Even that part, ahankara only will claim. Okay. Same thing, Swamiji is saying, all these points I am not telling on my own. All of this has been said in granthas. That's why he mentions a point and he quotes the relevant grantha. So this is Panchadashi again, 791. Buddhitastha chidabhasau dvava vivyapnuto ghatam dvava vivyapnuto ghatam tatra jnanam dhiya nashyet tatra jnanam dhiya nashyet abhasena ghata spuret abhasena ghata spuret. How does cognition take place of an inert object? Buddhi. Buddhi here means vritti. Vritti and tastha chidabhasa. And the chidabhasa which is accompanying it. Dvavapi vyapnuto ghatam. Both these things are needed to take the form of that object. Vritti will take the form of that object. What happens there? Tatra ajnanam dhiya nashyet. Ignorance about that object is removed by that vritti. Dhiya there means vritti. Thought removes ignorance about that object. Abhasena ghataspuret. And this phalavyapti which is happening, the reflected consciousness, that illumines the part. Whatever we had seen, it is just coming back in verses now. Final conclusion of this. Yatha Deepa Prabha Mandalam Andhakaragatam Ghata Patadikam Vishayikritya Tadgata Andhakara Nirasana Purassaram Swaprabha Swaprabhaya Tadapi Bhasayatiti. Yatha Deepa Prabha Mandalam. Just like if you bring a flame of a lamp, Deepa Prabha Mandalam, aura, which is there around that lamp. What does that do? Andhakara gatam ghata patadikam vishayi. That cloth, that pot which has gone in darkness, overpowered by the darkness, it makes that as the object. This flame makes that as the object. Tadgata andhakara nirasana purasaram. First is removes that ignorance, or ignorance in that case is darkness. It removes the darkness first. And swaprabhaya tadapi bhasayati. With its flame, it also illumines that object. Unlike in the case of an LED lamp. You saw that example, right? In Brahmakar Vritti case, what happens? That object, Vishaya, is Swayam Prakasha. So not only removing of ignorance, once that step is done, removal of ignorance, there is no illumination needed after that. Because that object is Swayam Prakasha. But in the case of Jada Padartha, inert objects, ignorance has to be removed, and after that, illumination is needed. So you're just giving an example over here. If there is a pot or a cloth kept in a dark room, and you bring that flame of lamp inside, so first it has to remove that ignorance. It has to remove that darkness, and then illumine that object through its light. That is symbolic of Phalavyapti. Removal of darkness was symbolic of Vritti Vyapti. Okay. By this, our fourth chapter of Apavada is complete. Fourth chapter of Apavada is complete. I'll just quickly summarize what are the main topics we have seen. We started with this point. What is Apavada? Apavada means Rajju Vivartasya Rajju Matratvavata. Whatever is Vivarta, whatever has emerged from that rope, that is negated. Apavada of that is done, and what remains is only rope. Just like in this example, this whole creation which has emerged from that pure consciousness, Apavada of that is done. What remains is only Shuddha Chaitanya. And how are we able to do Apavada? He said because it was Vivarta. Whatever emerged from this consciousness was not a modification of Brahma, but it was only an appearance in Brahma. That is where Swamiji defined two terms. He said one is called as Vikara, another is called as Vivarta. Vikara means Sa Tattvato Anyatha Prata. Really something is undergone change, that is called as Vikara. And once something modifies, you cannot get that previous thing back. That is this kind of Vikara. Example was yogurt, which has modified from milk. Milk changing into yogurt, that is example of Vikara. Vivarta means without modifying, a thing appears to be different. Like this snake rope example, rope is there, without modifying it is appearing as snake. So in Adhyaropa part, it was said there is rope and there is snake also. And it was pointed out how that snake emerged from that rope. So many things happened, first this happened, first that happened, and so on. Srishti Prakriya, whatever was elaborated. From consciousness, Maya Upadhi, 5 elements came, from that Panchikaranam happened, then this world of names and forms. Like this, 14 worlds were created. All of that was mentioned. But now when we are doing Apavada, what should remain is only Shuddha Chaitanya. If after studying everything, we say, I know that there is rope, but I am afraid of that snake. That means our inquiry has not gone to the final destination. Any reality given to that snake means more inquiry is needed. So any reality given to Jagat means I should again go back to my drawing board and try to see where I should inquire more, including this ahankara. Jagat means ahankara is also included. So this part, Swamiji elaborated. He said, now how are you going to do Apavada? He said, there is a laya prakriya. All these names and forms that we see, trying to shift attention from variety of objects to Panchamahabhuta first. Gross 5 objects, 5 elements. Panchamahabhuta means sthula Panchamahabhuta. Gross or grossified 5 elements. Space, air, fire, water, earth. So it is said that Jnani doesn't look at Nama Rupa. Different names are there, different forms are there. Jnani is somebody who is a Tattvadarshi. Tattvadarshi means he is interested in the substratum of that thing. So first step in that journey towards substratum is to shift attention from Nama Rupa to Panchamahabhuta. 5 elements. And from gross 5 elements, next step is to dissolve them into Sukshma Panchamahabhuta. Subtle 5 elements. And how did we do this? We say just look at perception. When that sthula is becoming perceived, how is it perceived? By the time our sense organs take that sthula, it has already become Sukshma. By the time I have perceived any gross object, when mind knows that object, it knows it as Sukshma, subtle. So this is where Bauddha Darshan is very helpful. We had seen that part also. They say there is no sthula prapancha outside. Whatever is there is only vrittis. It's only thoughts. There is no gross world outside, because you have never seen sthula independent of sukshma. So you can never establish that there is, really speaking, a gross world outside. More we think in this line, it's helpful for our sadhana. To not think that world is outside, but to boil it down to thoughts, vritti. If you noticed in our Saturday meditation, this is the process that we are doing for the last few sessions. Same from Vedanta only it is. Then this sukshma, subtle, is dissolved into causal. That this entire creation of names and forms, he says it is coming from that Maya Upadhi only. Even if you pay attention at individual level, where are thoughts rising from? In Puja Gurudev's BMI chart, the Vasanas. You can call that a causal body. Karana Sharira, Maya Upadhi, Ajnanam, all are different names. So dissolving all subtle creation into this avyakta. And finally questioning, where is this avyakta staying? What is the substratum for this avyakta? It cannot stay anywhere outside, because everything that comes is product of avidya. It's a result of ignorance. Avidya cannot have ashraya again in that result. So the only thing which is available for ashraya is Brahma, Turiya. Okay, and that Turiya is non-modifying, nirvikara. So whatever takes ashraya in that Turiya has to be an appearance. Just like that illusory snake taking ashraya in that rope. So like this, entire creation is dissolved in that pure consciousness. This is true Apavada. True Apavada. Once a sadhaka gets familiar with the systematic step, then we can directly go to the last one also. Meaning, when we say Jagat is Mithya, it will make sense to us only when somebody has done step-by-step Apavada. Okay, so with this, Apavada Prakriya was complete. Swamiji said, in and through this Adhyaropa Apavada, Padartha Shodhanam also happened. Means we understood what is Tatpada, what is Tvampada, what is Vachyartha, what is Lakshyartha. Samashti Ajnana Upeta Chaitanya was Vachyartha. Samashti Ajnana Upahita Chaitanya. There is pure consciousness, there is Samashti conditioning, and there is conditioned consciousness at totality level. That is Vachyartha of Tatpada. At Tvampada level, Vyashti Ajnana Upahita Chaitanya was Tvampada Vachyartha. Consciousness, individual conditioning, and individual conditioned consciousness, which we otherwise call as Jiva. So this was there at Vyashti and Samashti level. Lakshyartha was Shuddha Chaitanya. Then Swamiji said, once you know Vachyartha and Lakshyartha of Tatpada and Tvampada, let us go to Mahavakya. Then he took up the discussion of Tattvamasi, Mahavakya. Because for Tattvamasi, you need to know the Vachyartha and Lakshyartha. So that when you reach Lakshana, we know what to keep and what to let go of. So as part of that analysis of Tattvamasi Mahavakya, we saw three types of relationships between the Tat, Tvam and Asi, between the terms. He said there is Sambandha Traya between the Pada. We tried to apply Visheshana Vishesha Bhava between Padartha, and Laksha Lakshana between Pratyagatma and the Lakshana. Okay, three were mentioned. Then he said, Sambandha Traya told us it is the same thing which is being indicated. Tat and Tvam are not talking about two different things. It is the same locus. Visheshana Vishesha Bhava failed. Tat could not become Visheshana of Tvam. Tvam could not become Visheshana of Tat. Then we said, let us go to Lakshana. When we went to Lakshana, we found three different Lakshanas. First was Jahad Lakshana. We tried to apply that. And why did we do this whole thing? Because if Vachyartha would give us the meaning, then we don't need to go to Lakshyartha. We tried Vachyartha to put those two words together with literal meaning, but we found a lot of contradictions. That is why we are going to Lakshanas. So Jahad Lakshana was the first one, where you completely give up the meaning, take something else. Like the house is in Gangaji. House is on Gangaji. You say house is on the banks. House is on the banks. So you have to take something which is related to that thing. So we said, how can you take something related to Tat and Tvam? Because everything is included in that word Tat and Tvam. There is nothing more that we can take as Sambandhi, relative of Tat and Tvam. So Jahad Lakshana did not work. Ajahad Lakshana, what was the example? Kakebhyah dadi rakshatam. Kakebhyah dadi rakshaya. Save the yogurt from crow. Not only crow, any other thing comes, you should save. Means keeping that meaning, you should add something more to make sense of that sentence. Shono dhavati. Red is running. So you have to say, red horse is running. So keeping that sentence, you're adding something more. Like that, if Tat and Tvam you keep, and you say you want to add something more, again the same problem. There is nothing which is not there, which you have to add. Okay, in between there were a few other Purva Pakshas, let us not go there. And the last one was Jahad Ajahal Lakshana or Bhagat Tyaga Lakshana, where we keep something and let go of something. Like in the case of Soyam Devadatta. Devadatta, whom I saw 20 years before and I am seeing right now, the contradictory parts I let go of, and the person himself I keep. Like that, between Tat and Tvam, all the contradictions which are coming because of upadhis, that is let gone off, and Shuddha Chaitanya alone is kept. With this, Tattvamasi Mahavakya Vichara was done. And then Swamiji said, when we reflect upon this, Tattvamasi Mahavakya, when it becomes internalized, how does that Mahavakya work? Tattvamasi was Upadesha Vakya. Student says, Aham Brahmasmi. That was the last part, 172-180. He said, Vritti Vyapti takes place, Phala Vyapti is not needed. Okay. With this, our chapter 4 of Apavada is complete. Now, whatever steep climb was there in Vedanta Sara is all done. Okay. After this verse, whatever we are going to study is something that you might have already studied several times in several texts. But the beauty of Vedanta Sara is it gives a lot of precision, even in those terms. So, if at all somebody feels Vedanta Sara is little challenging, that is this part, Apavada part, where there are different new ideas which are brought and discussed. I was sharing with a sadhaka yesterday. Vedanta Sara we start appreciating only the second time. First time when we study Vedanta Sara, we have no clue what is going on. At least I had no clue what was going on. Means ideas are so new that you have to again listen to the same teaching. And then you start feeling, or you start appreciating what is being taught to us. So Vedanta Sara is like that. In particular, this Apavada portion, all of that we have to again revisit. Let us start the next one. It's a very nice portion. I said, okay, now we have understood what is our goal. That Advitiya Vastu, Mahavakya have to abide in. And the sadhaka has already done whatever sadhanas were given in Adhikari portion. He has already done his Kamya Nishiddha Varjana, desire prompted action, forbidden action he has given up. Karma Yoga he is doing. Nitya Naimittika Karma does with Karma Yoga Bhava. Everything is done. And he does some other sadhanas also. Japa he does. Regular prayers he does. Every day should be there, or every day there should be a time. At least for some time, we exclusively turn attention towards the Lord. Exclusive time that Bhagwan, this is just to turn attention to you. Sitting in one place, I will do that. Upasana, what we had seen before, all of that he is doing. This set of sadhana is called as Bahiranga sadhana. Bahiranga means it will help in calming down the mind, purifying the mind. But when it comes to Vedanta, there is something called as Antaranga sadhana. Antaranga itself means more closer, more inner. Means external practices are less, thinking is more. So that Antaranga sadhana is called as Shravanam, Mananam and Nitidhyasanam. Listening to scriptures, reflecting on scriptures, and in whatever we have gained conviction in, trying to put our mind in that conviction. That is Nitidhyasanam. And Vedanta Sara will give very beautiful definitions of each of these terms. Okay, let us see. Evam bhuta swaswarupa chaitanya sakshatkara paryantam shravana manana nididhyasana samadhi anushtanasya apekshitatvat te api pradarsyante evam bhuta. In this way, until this point, whatever we had seen, swaswarupa chaitanya sakshatkara paryantam. Until one gets sakshatkara of this chaitanya, which is innermost, which is our own nature, swaswarupa. Swarupa word we had seen in Lakshmana Gita. That thing which cannot be given up, that thing which need not be taken up, that is called as Swarupa. Like Swarupa of sugar is sweetness. Cannot be given up, need not be taken up. Just in the same way, until one gets conviction that my Swarupa is consciousness, my Swarupa is Ananda, until we get firm conviction in that, one should continue to do Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam. Until the point we realize the real I. One I is Ahankara, the one which is constantly changing. And the true I is a Chaitanya. So whenever we think of Aham, whenever we think of ourselves, none of the erroneous I indicators are taken as Aham. It might be position, it might be this physical body, related identities, mind-related identities. None of that is taken as Aham until this firmly happens. Until this happens firmly, until that point, one should do Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. If that is not included in Aham, mind, body, so on, what is included in Aham? He says you don't have to include anything because Swarupa is that which you don't have to bring from outside. Whatever remains after removing all these conditionings, that itself is Ananda Swarupa Brahma. So one who never loses sight of this understanding, that person is Jivan Mukta. But until that point, it is said, one has to constantly do this Vedantic sadhana of Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam. That is why that word realize is also beautiful. Realize means what? It was already there before. I was just not paying attention, or I had some erroneous ideas about it. For example, if you meet somebody and you keep talking to that person, and you had gone to a concert or something, a big concert, many people are there, and you are just talking to that person. And then finally you see that same person going and sitting there and giving that concert. You said, I spoke to him, but I did not realize that he was the main performer. Anubhava was already there. We were already communicating, already talking. But realizing is knowing the extraordinary in ordinary. Means that Chaitanya is already illumining our listening right now, already illumining our speaking right now. Knowing that this Chaitanya is Asanga. Asanga means it is unattached. Knowing that this Chaitanya is free from birth and death, it is free from any other modification, that is realization. Now Swamiji will elaborate on each of these terms. What is Shravanam? We saw the whole verse, right? Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, Samadhi Anushtanasya Apekshitatvat. Means it is expected or it is needed. Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana is needed until this Sakshatkara takes place. Sakshatkara takes place. That is why we are going to elaborate now. What is Shravanam? What is Mananam? What is Nididhyasanam? Shravanam Nama Shadvidalingaihi Shadvidha Lingaihi Ashesha Vedantanam Advitiya Vastuni Tatparya Avadharanam. What is Shravanam? It says many people can have different ideas about Shravanam. Somebody might say, attending a discourse is Shravanam. Listening to some talk is Shravanam. Since how long have you been doing Shravanam? Yes, I have been doing for last 5 years. Somebody might say 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. Swamiji here gives a very precise definition of Shravanam. If we appreciate that, we'll be able to get the most out of Shravanam. He says, Shravanam Nama. What is Shravanam? Tatparya Avadharanam Shravanam. Getting a very clear knowledge of the essence of Vedas. He says that is Shravanam. What is the essence of Vedas? Advitiya Vastuni Tatparya Avadharanam. That Advitiya Vastu, non-dual truth, which is the main essence of entire Vedas, understanding this fact, that he says is the main definition of Shravanam. Meaning there might be so many topics which are elaborated. There might be discussion about Sadhana Chatushtaya. There might be discussion about Srishti Prakriya, Panchakosha Viveka. If we get stuck in some of those discussions, he says we have missed the Tatparya of Shravanam. Like for example, somebody might describe Swapna Avastha. As Avasthatraya Viveka, we might describe Swapna Avastha. And sometimes it happens, we get so fascinated by Swapna. He said, what do dreams mean? What is Swapna Avastha? How do dreams come? He said, Vedanta is interested in Sakshi of dream, not in dream. And that Sakshi is Advitiya Vastu. So he says, staying focused in our goal and paying attention to this. How every text is again indicating the nature of that Advitiya Vastu. He says that is Shravanam. Whichever text of Vedanta we pick, it should have this particular topic, being able to appreciate that while we listen. Shravanam is listening part of it, but he says, what should we pay attention to while listening? He says, pay attention to how this Advitiya Vastu is expounded. And try to connect all other things back to this goal. If Bhagavan Krishna says, one should eat in moderation, sleep in moderation, how is that connected to Advitiya Vastu? He says, one who does that, only that person can meditate. And that meditation is on Advitiya Vastu. So this kind of seamless understanding is called as Shravanam. Ashesha Vedantanam. Ashesha Vedantanam means in all texts of Vedanta, whatever you pick of Vedanta, you will find this as the main Tatparya. Main topic will be Advitiya Vastu. Now, how will I know? There are so many things which are described in Vedanta. I'm just going back. This is like Urdu style reading. You have to go from the last word to the first word. Okay. First we saw Tatparya Avadharanam. Then we saw the previous word Advitiya Vastuni. Then we saw Ashesha Vedantanam. Then how will I know that in entire Vedanta, Advitiya Vastu is Tatparya? They say there are 6 indicators. 6 limbs are there. If you pay attention to that, it will take us to Advitiya Vastu. And this is a beautiful topic. How to do Tatparya Nirnaya. We will see this from scripture standpoint also, but we'll try to see some applied examples in the next session. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Hari Om, everyone.